Hi guys, well, I'm here today with Linda and the body fat test, and I just got my body fat tested and I was looking through my report and I just thought of some questions that typically come up for people when they're looking through their report, and something that caught my eye was on the third page, the resting metabolic rate, and I just wanted to ask Linda, what is that and what do I do with that number?
That is a wonderful question, and we get asked that question all the time. It's specific to your lean mass. So resting metabolic rate is the amount of calories your lean mass needs for function at rest. And that literally means holding still on your back awake. This does not include your fat mass, so it's really specific to your lean mass and just how many calories you need to actually function to be alive on the planet Earth. So it's quite a lot of calories sometimes, and most people are not prepared for that number. They're looking at that saying, what? I have to eat that much to be alive? Resting metabolic rate accounts for approximately 70% of your total caloric intake for the day. So the other 30% of your day you have to account for too, and that's the active part. Resting is holding still, and then the other 30% is the active part. So it's your workout, your work day, your daily life. So we have to add calories to our resting metabolic rate to do the rest of the function for the day. Think function when you're thinking resting metabolic rate. So we like to look at your resting metabolic rate plus the amount of calories you need to go do the rest of your day.
I really like your car analogy. Can you give that, like you said, when I'm sitting in the driveway and
Sure.
on a full tank? I love that analogy.
Okay, so let's pretend that your body is a car and you're sitting in your driveway with the engine on. That engine is actually your lean mass running, right? And you're just sitting there using up the fuel to hold still in your driveway. Now, when you back up and you drive down the road and go down and back, that's the extra fuel that is going to be needed to go do that. So that's you've got an amount of calories to hold still, or gas to sit in the driveway, an amount of gas to go somewhere and back. And that's what we want to do. We want to feed that little extra bit of effort.
So
right?
how do you create a calorie deficit then if you're telling me I have to eat all of these calories? How do I create that calorie deficit so that I know I'm losing fat and not losing muscle?
That's another excellent question. So the only caloric deficit that we really want to create is through exercise only, not through food restriction and exercise, because the deficit becomes too big. And when it becomes too big, what happens is that you run out of gas, right? You run out of fuel to function properly. And when you do that, your body is going to be forced to break down muscle for energy. It doesn't want to use your fat under those circumstances. It's an extreme measure to really start tapping into your fat mass, right? But if you feed yourself in a way that you're meeting a caloric demand every day, then you're not going to run out of gas and you're going to function really well. And at the end of the day, it's he or she who functions the best who tends to be the leanest. And they're not restricting calories, and at the end of the day, it's he or she who functions the best who tends to be the leanest. And they're not restricting calories, but they're eating pretty specific amounts and they're hitting a caloric amount every day, right?
So let's say I didn't eat 2,000 calories, which is about my resting metabolic rate. Let's say I ate like 1,600 calories because I read somewhere that was the cool thing to do. What would happen to my massive lean mass over time?
Well, basically you're going to use that 1,600 calories. You're going to use all of it, and then you're going to run out of gas, and your engine is going to sputter and basically stop working properly.
So I'll get smaller though.
That's right, you will. You'll lose, you're going to lose muscle and fat and just become a smaller person. And all that does is result in you being smaller. You're not leaner and you're not healthier, right?
Okay, I don't want that. Never mind. I'll eat. So then what would you suggest I should do for how many calories should I add on top of my resting metabolic rate in order to, like if I'm a newbie? Right? And I don't really know, like, is there a recommendation?
You know, I think it's a conservative thing to do to automatically add a couple hundred calories to that number And if you can stay there for most of the time, you're going to be in the right kind of functioning caloric world to be in an effective fat loss world. Because it really comes down to like your macronutrient ratios. We've got to have protein, carbohydrates, and fats and meet a caloric demand every day. And if we have that consistency over time, we're going to do pretty good on the fat loss. But if you're at or less than your resting metabolic rate, you're just going to run out of gas no matter how good you eat. Right?
Interesting.
You know, we don't want to see these big giant drops in your body weight, because if you do that, more than likely you're losing some muscle mass, which is why you want to jump in the tank, because it's going to give you that feedback. It's going to show you whether or not you gained muscle, kept your muscle, or lost muscle. It's going to tell you if you gain fat or lose fat. It gives you all that feedback when you get into the tank. If you don't, you're guessing as to what happens, right? So no matter how much fat you have to lose, we only want to see maybe a pound or two maybe in a week, right? It's very conservative. We're not after big numbers, but we're just after the consistency behind eating enough calories every day and getting our macronutrients where it's pretty balanced. You know, we see good results that way.
Awesome. I think that's all the questions I had.
Awesome.
Thank you, Linda. We appreciate you at the event, and we're so glad that you're part of our community and help us stay on track.